if you have anything to bring up that's pressing in terms of your own practice. Again, this is living Zen. If not, I'll find something to say, or not.
Roshi.
Sure.
Yesterday when Sensei was talking about acceptance and effort,
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting, my mind immediately went to one or the other. It
Yeah.
has to be acceptance or it has to be effort.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And sitting with it, and I spoke to Sensei about it afterwards, sitting with it, it's interesting to be able to hold both.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering what your perspective was that on the nature of mind.
Yeah.
I asked before.
Yeah. No. I see it very much the way you do. Every word sort of reaches to a certain degree, but then the real thing is just seeing how that dynamic, if it doesn't have words, operates in myself. Acceptance comes for me from seeing something and seeing if there's a way around it first, you know, and then if there isn't, then that's part of a process. And then there's the acceptance, and then there's what do I do beyond this, you know, does it require effort or not, you know, and if it requires effort, then what's the greater good for me, you know. I would do that. I mean, also there's this question of a point that that Sensei brought up yesterday, and for me is that's the part of the disease of the mind. We look for a point. In other words, we're taking a snapshot of life, and that's not life. You know, looking for a point. It's just like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The answer is 42. You know, so you're fine. You know, 42. But are you fine? You know, because again, an answer doesn't reach this. It doesn't reach this. You know, life goes on. It's not a point. There's never a point. You know, Maezumi Roshi would say, with any sort of stage that you went through or realization, let's say it's just a punctuation. You know, it's a nice way of putting it. You know, life goes on. Remember in the early days of S, they would say, "Have you got it?" You know, like it was the end. You know, have you got it? And I remember, it was very popular to say, "Yeah, I've got it." You know, and I just say, "No." You know, and they say, "Why?" There's nothing to get. You know, for me, there's never been anything to get, and the problem is my desire to get something else. That's the problem. Once the problem is recognized, then, you know, it's just like that right effort. Then where does the effort go? Is stop practicing the things that cause you suffering by chasing after them. You know, so that acceptance is the first thing. Is I accept that's what I do as a human being. This is how the human mind works. So it's somewhat counterintuitive to do it, but for me as an individual, I have to do that. And then in doing that, that makes me happy. So it doesn't matter what the others say. Have you got it? No. Oh, poor guy. You know, he's got it. Great guy. You know, doesn't make any difference. It's always like this. You know, so the process is that it's the same thing. You know, even in the 5 ranks, like the last one, actually, what I'm quoting here is Dogen's 5 ranks. So that one that goes, to study the ways, to study the self is to forget the self, to forget the self is to, drop off body and mind, and...
To drop off body and mind is to be manifested by them.
Yeah, to be manifested by the 10,000 things, and allow this traceless enlightenment to continue endlessly. So for me, that traceless enlightenment is the aspect of, it doesn't matter how I define myself or what I have. That's the problem. You know, that's the problem. So I define myself as this, I can't do that. You know, etc. It's just like, what is this? So now what to do? what's next. And it's not, necessarily a matter of acceptance. I'm not a very accepting person in many ways. I always look at ways. The tendrils are all over the place. And then I just do the best action that I can. Does that answer your point? Thank you. Was it
me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it's similar, really. I was reading that Dogen would say, when you adopt the correct posture in Zazen, you are already in the right state of mind. There is not another state of mind to achieve. I just wonder what you thought about that.
What do I think about it? Well, what do you mean by it?
I was hoping you might.
Well, it's when I do Zazen and sit upright. I mean, there's an analogy there too. To sit upright in life, to sit upright. Stand. The main thing is independence. I take responsibility for the choices that I've made. When I do Zazen, nobody is doing this to me. I sit upright, alone, as soon as you do that, it's all there. Sit alone, not alone, but alone. So that's right there, right from the beginning, and I can see that. It doesn't mean that you adopt the rigid stance of somebody who looks like they're doing Zazen. A lot of people will take it that way. People get trapped in forms. We all get trapped in something at some stage. There's no reward in it. But when you practice sitting alone, upright, doing the practice of integration between body, breath, and mind, then you're doing the work that continues through the whole of your life. And then don't think that doesn't operate in other ways. Apparently, if you play golf, you do that. It's the same with shooting. You go shooting. That's what they teach you. Breathe on the while you're shooting. Shoot on the exhale.
Yeah.
That's right. And then soccer. It's a very similar thing too. Integration of all these aspects, And then again, when things start going awry, just come back to those basics, over and over and over, And then those basics really sink in. They're embodied. Yeah.
Do you think having a daily practice of Zazen is crucial then?
For me, it was.
It was.
The ancient masters say it so, and I would recommend it to people. And the main thing is just the embodiment part. Maezumi Roshi would say better to sit 2 minutes a day than 2 hours a week. And the reason is your body remembers, or what nowadays the cliche is muscle memory. You don't have to keep recreating it. It just sinks in. And especially if you do it come what may. It doesn't matter. Then you don't start judging, well, this is a good time for Zazen or not. It's the place that you stand is a good time for Zazen. It begins to permeate everything from that perspective. There's a few more things around this. We talk about discipline. David talked about Woody Allen's statement of 80%, and he brought up the very interesting question of what's the other 20. And so maybe bring up part of that. What's part of the other 20? Faith, yeah. That's sort of somewhat interweaved with the other 80 too, isn't it?
For me, there's an element of trust that the people that have practiced before actually got it right.
Yeah.
That for me is a big thing.
Yeah, well, if you don't have that...
No, I do. I trust, actually, the three of you. It's important to me, personally, to trust that the three of you haven't spent the last 30 years or 40 years completely, aimlessly. Which, it's no pressure then.
Actually, I've got a good PR man. He's been in Hawaii drinking mint juleps. So again, this 20%. This is what makes it easier to do something. Intention's one. I'm thinking it's something a bit stronger.
Familiarity.
No. Well, that's obviously that helps. Yeah.
Enjoyment.
Enjoyment. Yeah. Could be it.
Desperation.
We're getting a lot now.
What makes it easier to do
1%
something?
each, and then we're getting down there.
Attention.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Attachments.
Well, I think I better say something.
Determination.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely that, and again, that's woven in with the 80 for sure. Love. Then, I say, what for? I love practice, but I love my life, and I want to enjoy it more. So that's why I practice. If it wasn't for that love, I couldn't do it. If I love something, I'm going to do it. If I don't love it, it's not going to do much. We don't talk about it much in Zen because the Oriental practice tends to not use the word love, simply because it has romantic connotations, more so than in the West. But love, you love something, you're going to do it. It doesn't matter, you're going to do it. You're going to find out, you're going to do it. So look at that aspect in yourself, and then discipline becomes, it's not discipline like, it's this is what I do. This is benefit. I love it. I love life. And through doing it, then it becomes a lot easier to carry that into all aspects. Because you want more. I want more in that way. And being very greedy, I want practice all the time. But then part of it is finding out what practice is in each circumstance. And then so-called practice in daily life is not imposing a mindset over those activities. It's finding out what mindset is necessary for this activity. So that's the first thing, and so that's where the inquiry is really needed. So it's different dealing with kids than it is with old people, like me. Some of you are a lot younger than me, like Dave.
That would be very nice.
Too late now.
Well, it's relative, I'm trying to say. And then, when you're repairing something, it's very, very small. When you're watching a sunset, it's very expansive. You don't have to do anything. So the mind naturally conforms to circumstances. To try and one of the parts that's painful in daily life practice is the disabusing oneself of holding up, say, what you regard as a mindful method. Because it doesn't work, and it's not working. So then it's the dropping off of that and actually finding out. So opening up again. That's going back to Dave's mention about vulnerability. I was reflecting on that, and that was a very important thing that he said. Is that I'm vulnerable all the time. I'm vulnerable about all kinds of things. But again, it's just like Dan was saying, is that it's not a fixed thing. Vulnerability. There's many parts to it. There's openness. There's part of that can be seeing the defensiveness within that vulnerability. Seeing the vulnerability of being connected with people and what can happen to them and your environment, your government, your people around you. Part of it is impermanence and feeling those things. And then obviously from being able to feel those things, then It's important to be flexible enough to make the changes that are necessary to meet whatever challenges are there in front of you, you know, rather than trying to build walls around the place that you stand so you can't be touched by those things. You know, vulnerability is a great thing, but it's the recognition of that helps you to be strong, you know, and to be open in front of, say, people that are, say, enemies, you know. I don't mean completely open, I mean knowing where to shut the doors and leaving some open so that a meeting point can be met. You've got to be very strong to do that kind of thing, you know. So all of these things are part of finding out what practice is, you know, and again, in terms of practice in everyday life, it really is finding out. And sometimes, you know, it's just very difficult. There's a few times in my own life where it's like the first thing I've said to myself, I can't do this. And then obviously my mother's voice comes in my head and said, there's no such word as can't. You know, it's a great voice. You know, one of the few times I listen to it. Even though she's dead, but you know, it's one of those things. And I find a way. You know, it's like sometimes being exhausted and looking after my son, you know, and especially when he was younger, you know, he'd be, come on, Dad, you know, and he's all, he's like, Tigger. So how do you practice in the midst of that? Okay, just do my best, you know. So you find that you find ways. You just find ways of doing it, and it doesn't, you know, again, it doesn't need to look like something. Don't define it. Don't define an outcome. Don't worry about not feeling successful. The important thing is making the attempt. Making the attempt. Now, if that doesn't ring true for you, I mean, I want you to look at the statistics. The statistics of Dharma transmission, right? Maezumi Roshi. 12 successors, maybe 13, depending on, you know, how you look at it. 30, 40 years of practice, you know, depending on when you go back. Me, 22, 23 years, 5, 6, in that time. Great baseball players, I think it's something like 2 out of 4 or 5, you know, hits. And you're a great hitter. You know, most of it, you've got to get used to what's called failure. You know, we promote success, we promote high points in our society, but the best ones are the ones that keep on going. It doesn't matter about that. If you love something, you're going to do it. You know, that's the kind of mind to bring forth. Don't worry about what people regard as success. If you are doing what you need to do, living in the way that you need to live, you know, don't worry about what they think. You know you're doing that mission. That's important. And if you want to take practice into daily life, do it. You know, do it. And you will. Don't expect instantaneous results. Over time, you will see that that's what daily life is. It's practice. We practice something. Whether it's resistance, greed, anger, ignorance, you know, or you practice doing the best that you possibly can, seeing into one's nature. You know, people say, well, I haven't practiced for 10 years. They'll say, well, what did you practice? You know, you can't get away from it. So that thing, just with the statistics, is you have to become used to failure. But if you fail gloriously. Put your whole self in. And if you fail gloriously, there is no regret. And I can attest to that. You know? If you do the best that you possibly can. I mean, just look at the things that we look at. You know, things like the Spartans at Thermopylae. They lost. But it's how they did it. You know? And we English, you know, the Americans say about us, you know, we're really good defending hills. Take a stand, we can do it. All right, use that talent. Use that talent, doesn't matter. You know, if you're good at taking punishment, do it. If you're good on the offense, do it. You know, whatever your talent is, find out what that talent is and take that to the hilt. You know. And there's very simple things, you know, basically in development of character, it's just like your good parts outweigh your bad parts. You know, or counterbalance your bad parts. All right. Yeah.
Could you describe what love is for you?
Connection. You know, it's connection, really. I'm the same. I'm the same as that other person.
Does it involve attachment? Is there
Yeah, sure it does.
healthy attachment and
Yeah, and you know, for me, is that with attachment, the first thing before trying to get rid of it is finding out how it works. You know, it's like, you know, I often use the example: if I didn't love my son, I would have flushed him by now. You know, yeah. There's something deeper than my own health and well-being. You know, if things, you know, if a relationship isn't working, I value the relationship. There's value too. You know, there's a mutual thing going on there. I feel loved by the world. Simply, it shows up for me on a daily basis. There's a connection there. I can't walk away. I'll tell you an interaction I had with my teacher. It's one of the marking points of my own life. It was after a training period, actually, up at Mountain Center, and we'd gone back to LA and we were having a few drinks around the table. It was Maezumi Roshi, his brother Takeshi, Kosho Ikizawa, some other guy, myself. Oh no, there was Luli, myself, Mariano, and then Roshi. And you know, it was a nice warm night in LA with the crickets going, and Maezumi Roshi was going around and tearing a new one in each person. You know, while we're having a drink. You know, he would just turn on. You know, so you had to be ready. You know, he'd just turn on. He gets round to me, and he says, "Tenshin, what is it?" So I go, "I love the sound of crickets." He goes, "Tenshin, don't cheat." I'm not cheating. And then he goes quiet and goes, "Then you lose. We both lose." So you know that's a nice Zen story, but that really showed me something more about what a teacher is that we're in it together. You know, we're in it together. The student fails, I fail. You know, but we don't fail. We just keep on going. You know, I really saw something about his own heart there. You know, that's what I want. Is I want people to be better than me. I want them to be much better than me. You know. That's what it's there for. But that's that connection. We're in this together. We practice together. It's not me being a teacher. You know, Luli, that was in that same room at the time. She had three daughters. She's Spanish and Mexican. And she said next time around, to her three daughters, she said, "I want you to be mother." So next time around, I want you to teach. You know, you take the place. You know. We both lose. Does that explain it somewhat?
It does, yeah. I suppose I wonder, would there be someone who you're more likely to say something to a bullet for than someone else? And so does that love exist uniformly, or does it exist more to different people?
Yeah, sure. There's differences. Yeah. I would have a hard time jumping in front of a bullet for certain people. Yeah. No, I mean, that's just me. Maybe it's a strength or a weakness, I don't know. You know. But nobody's written rules on that line.
Roshi mentioned the
But a quick
sorry.
just what do you do, Roshi? What normally you feel love one day?
Sorry?
One day you feel, I mean, normally you feel love, and there's plenty of it, but one day it's just nothing,
Mhm.
completely dry.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Feel whatever I'm feeling. See what's going on. You know, it's not that. In my life, I'm not trying to move towards something. I'm trying to be at home in the human condition. To see my nature in all of these things that arise. You know. Especially those things that go off on automatic and cause suffering. Those are the things I have to pay a particular attention to. So, you know, I also have to look at my end game. Didn't ask me what my end game was.
I was going to ask that. What's your end game, Roshi?
Well, I want to be at peace, so therefore it's up to me to practice peace, not to expect it to come. I want to love people and things, so it's up to me. That much that I practice it, that much lives in my life. I want to enjoy my life because nobody else will do it for me. Whatever. It's not, you know, just go off elsewhere and do something, and I want to be of service, those four. And there's 24/7 to do that. If I do those things, I'm happy. You know. I'm not saying that you should take those things on. That's what it is. So then, when I have interactions, can I live along those lines? You may say that's a guideline, but it's good enough. You know.
I often practice forgiveness a
Mhm.
lot, and
Yeah.
do you find that, for me, that's particularly part of my practice, what I feel is my
Mhm.
practice. Do you find something similar?
Yeah, you know, because if I am, if it depends which direction it's going, you know, that thing. But I carry things if I don't forgive. I remember it, but you know, it's better to, you know, for me to forgive than I'm not carrying them around.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, me being mad or about somebody doesn't help me as a human being because I'm the one that feels it. It's not punishing them, you know. Yeah.
Just on the point of being in oneness with whatever is
Yeah.
arising, would you say that your practice, the years of practice, allowed you to not become overwhelmed by some of the emotions, some of the states that we tend to fall into?
I didn't get that last bit.
That the emotions that we tend to fall into or tend to kind of happen.
For me, emotions are teachings. You know, I don't try and go, well, this is anger, and then just keep it as a monolith. It's just like, this looks like anger. What is it? And then say, I look at anger as a spectrum, and feel it. Where is it on that spectrum? Is it frustration all the way through to blinding rage? You know, and then see where that is. If I can sit still in the midst of it, not suppress it, you know, but just really feel it, then I learn ways of actually dealing with people and things in the midst of that.
Yeah,
But it's a
some
process.
of them can be very overwhelming.
Oh,
very
yeah,
intense,
yeah.
And that's what I'm interested in.
Are you interested or afraid?
No, I'm interested in, you know,
Mhm.
how that changed, that kind of
Mhm.
interaction. This.
Yeah, you know, I mean, for me, it's helped me in my life in various things. I see that each emotion has its place, you know, and I've not hit anyone since I was 18. So it's working. I started when I was about 18 and 19. So something's working somewhere, You know, I'm not saying how successful I am. The attempt is far more important. All emotions to me are awesome. Not that I play with them, it's when they're there, I study them, because each one is tremendously deep. You know, tremendously. Even the so-called deluded ones, there's no bottom to them. And that's just a window to my own mind. You know? Sometimes it's overwhelmed, sometimes things are so strong, and I understand that. You know, I lose myself in it. But the thing I realize is the only way through is to the bottom. Joy and stuff is usually no problem, that's why we don't talk about it, you know. Because I'm too joyful. I only had one person say that. I'm too happy and it's affecting somebody else over there. You know, the only person in like 20-some years had no problem with joy.
Roshi, you mentioned the Hitchhiker's Guide,
Mm-hmm.
and the answer was 42. Having figured out the answer, then what's the question? And I've been thinking about what questions we can ask ourselves. And you said earlier in the week, what is this? All
Yeah.
the time, what is this right here?
Yeah.
But I worry that because of who I am and because of the way I've grown to, be who I am and the way I think and what have you, that there are questions I'll never know to ask. How do we get through that?
Yeah, don't worry about what you don't know. I'm serious, you know. Don't even go there. You'll find out when it's time for you to find out. But what's more important is don't doubt what you know.
What you do know.
Yeah, you know, that's in your heart. Speak your truth. Let that out. You know, Maezumi Roshi on his Inka poem for Tetsugen said, play freely in self-fulfilling samadhi. Completion or lack thereof is of no concern. You know, if you set up completion, you think all of these things need to be realized, even the things that you don't understand. You know, you just take on a big block of something that's unnecessary. You know, and when you say play is a very important thing. Why does he use the word play? You know, it's like, for instance, when my son was 3, he would go out with, some of you know Gerhard, the German guy that practices with Genpo and etc. And we were building a rock wall behind the house, and he would go out and play with Gerhard, putting rocks into the concrete and building a wall. You know, and he did that, and he was playing it, doing it. It was great until his brothers told him it was work. But I mean, just, you know, that's an important thing, because quite often is work. If you use it in certain ways, it can be play. You know, it's a state of mind. You know, you're playing at something, you're getting better at it. You know, you're developing something in that way. I remember Sumi's husband died recently. He would come to Mountain Center and he'd go out and work on the tractor, but he'd say, I'm going out to play. You know. And I'm sure some of you have that too. But it's also, it sort of brings in a bit more flexibility into your mindset when you approach something like work or an obligation, you know. And that's implicit in the Japanese word for work, samu. There's 2 implications to it. One of them is a bit more, you know, not harsh, but fulfilling one's obligations. The other one is doing nothing. So when you work, that doing nothing, it's not that there's something extra to it, it's you just doing that. That's it. You know, you might as well play at it. Do you want to?
No, I was just thinking about
Gerhard?
how time it is for me to see my elderly aunt, and how would she feel if I went in and said, I've come to play, Lily. It might be great, I'm going to try it.
You always slap you down. Yeah.
I'm in a lot of physical pain at the moment.
You can say something that might upset you. Pain's not personal. You know, there's quite a lot of times when I'm sitting, I'm in pain too, but I've learned what's pain that's going to cause a problem and what's mentally created pain. And that's very useful for me as a human being, because that applies right across life. I can tell the difference now, whether it's emotional pain or it's I can somewhat separate them, so it doesn't need to get in the way. And it's also important as human beings, we tend to run away from pain, difficulties. So that's one tool. But another tool is to be able to sit still in the midst of it. If you can do both of those, you get true freedom.
Run away and sit with it.
Yeah, if you can do both. You know, I mean, you can do either, depending on the circumstance. Right here is probably not a good thing to do. But out there, you know, there might be a good thing to do. So, you know, you're gaining tools so that you can act in many different ways, rather than, well, I can run away so I'm free. You know, it's not always so, you can't always run away. I remember when I first heard that, when I was down in Cornwall. There was a Buddhist teacher here called Bill Pickard in the early days, probably, I don't know, this must have been about 78, I think. It's the first time I saw Ishin, actually. And I was in pain, and I probably had a poor me face on, you know. And he goes, you know, Charlie, he goes, pain's not personal. What? You know, he sort of woke me up. He goes, pain's not personal. It's there.
It does feel personal.
What's that?
It does feel personal.
Yeah. Who's doing it to you? Yeah, and who's that? Yeah, I mean, that's an important thing, is just look back and see who the perpetrator is, if there is such a thing.
Talking about physical pain, I've been still getting a lot of pain in my legs, and I've tried all sorts of things, and sometimes they go completely numb. And so I just thought, well, I'm just going to look inwardly at this pain. I'm going to look inwardly at my legs, and I'm going to, I feel so tense. I thought, right, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be gentle, I'm going to breathe in and see what I can find there, see what's going on. And when I did that more and more, and when I was breathing into that pain, it kind of shifted.
Mm-hmm.
It was much more gentle. It was
Yeah.
like I'm building that tension,
Mm-hmm.
and by being kind or loving or something, it begins to shift.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel it in the same way.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
A bit the same when I was at the hospital on Sunday night, so holding the side of my face,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of thinking what I would probably have done normally is, oh, this is going to hurt,
Mm-hmm.
I could feel there was a pressure building, there was a swelling, but instead of feeling it like pain, it felt like, isn't this wonderful that the white blood cells are coming to try and stop the infection? But it's there. And logically it probably should have done, but it just didn't.
Hate to see the other guy.
Actually, it was just about.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, another thing is that it's like one of the best things, examples of pain for me, is going to the dentist. And sometimes I don't ask for an injection when I do it. It's not to be macho or anything. It's just that usually I bite my lip afterwards, and it's worse than the pain of the thing. So I just, you know, it's more of a practical thing. And one thing with that is, if I stay with the sensation while they're doing it, it's not a problem. But if I start anticipating the pain, then, you know, and it's important to be able to see that, because that also operates in, you know, in my own life. If I'm doing something and I say it's going to be this way, you know, it's like not having much sleep. I go, well, it's going to be this way the next day, when really I have no idea what it's going to be like. It's better to find out. And then that leaves me a bit more free to be able to just experience whatever's going on. So pain's a good teacher, but it shouldn't be in pain all the time. Well, it shouldn't be. Sometimes you are, but it's not a matter of just that one aspect.
I find with pain, if I breathe into it, I can do that for a certain amount of time, but then I just have to have ultimately I have to have a break.
Yeah.
Is it something that you feel you can sort of cure without having a break with breathing and that sort of thing?
Well, there's all kinds of ways of dealing with pain. If it's too much, move. If it's too much, sit in a chair. There's again, is you've got to look in terms of one's own life. It's not just a matter of postures. Awareness functions whether you like it or not. So if you stood up, that's meditation. I have a student that can't sit down right now because they've got too many internal organ problems, and they can't lie down either, but so they stand. So again, is that it's not a matter of posture, and that's important. We usually have a value system in terms of meditation. Some people think that meditation just occurs like this. But there's a translation that has to happen. What's the difference between this and this? And this, and this. You're just moving the meat puppet in different ways. The eyes are still seeing and hearing. All of these things are still going on. Why do we value this over those things and not do the same, bring the same mind to those things? This is a challenge. This is life. I want to see into my nature at this moment in time. All the Zen literature says that, So, that's a translation, and we wonder why we can't carry practice into daily life. We've defined it. This is where it sits.
Roshi, still on pain. I find if I'm in pain sitting, it gets worse towards the end. Not just because it's getting more painful, but because I'm waiting for the sound of Jesus singing as he moves to lift the strike of the bell. That anticipation.
You better watch it, you're vibing it. You may get resistant. I'll tell you one thing, is that once when, well not once, but some sessions we'd have different teachers running, and when we had Joko teaching, quite often she would tell the Jikido to hit the bell randomly. So sometimes the periods would be 5 minutes, and sometimes it'd be an hour and 10 minutes. And so you never knew when the bell was going to go out. And it's a really good teaching, because you have this anticipation it's going to be a certain way, but it's not. It's not.
Please, sir.
It's up to Dave. I don't need to take that responsibility. I used to have a song that I would sing to the Jikido. In my head.
I really appreciated what you were saying and earlier about or keeping it alive. Anticipation, especially as we come to the end of one of these things, there's always an anticipation. How am I going to keep any of this alive, and so on and so forth. And there's it seems to be what Zen, what you're expressing, is that endless freshness of coming to things anew, rather than, certainly my experience, the longer I'm on my own, the more I become solid and rigid, and I lose any of that.
Well, you're assuming that I'm, flexible.
Well, you may not be, but you express it very well. I take it in and get something from it. So yours is your life. I'm just getting you what I get from what you're getting. And I don't know if you can say any more about that. You probably said all you can, but there is that.
Whatever I do, it's my life. If I'm working for somebody else, it's my life. You know, so if I want to enjoy it, that's up to me. It's not, you know, up to my externals to do that. So I'll try and do it. You know, I'll try and enjoy it in one way or another. You know, it's not like I'm going to be doing dances. If it helped me, it probably might do. But you know, it's just how can I enjoy this, whatever it is that I'm doing. You know, and then it doesn't matter too much what fills the space then. You know, because part of that is also, well, what's my prejudice here? What do I think it should be like? You know, and one of the things in, say, traditional Zen training is that you're given things that you've never done before. You know, like I've been there a year or so, and okay, I want you to do all the logistics for a party for 250 people. You know, so it's daunting, but then how to do it? And it's just like one thing after another. You find a way. And not saying it's just in Zen training, other places will do similar things. Then you may have a job for 2 years and you shift it off to something else, a membership or these things, and then you just find ways of doing it. It's like Maezumi Roshi, when I was administrator, I said to him, I've never been administrator before, have you got any advice? He said, be an administrator like you building a house, you know. So for me that meant something, you know, having built a house is get good foundations. What are the foundations? So get good people in the right places, you know. For me that's what I did, and then, you know, what are the walls, you know. I'm having a hard time translating that right now, but you know, again, it's just where, you know, again, is that how people do things, etc., etc. And then it worked out. It really worked out. It doesn't always, but it worked out. It's just finding a way, and that thing about finding a way is very important, because nobody's been you before now. Nobody can say do this, this, and this will be the result. You know, you're finding the way for you. You know, this is your way. You know, if you sort of link that, you know, with the Buddha way, in other words, it's not your agenda. It's you know, maybe a way of greater good. Then that really helps, because then that opens you up to your surroundings too. Now that doesn't mean putting on any different clothes or anything like that, but you know, just seeing what that is, opening you up to your own environment in that way. Is that? Yeah. Yeah.
Roshi, what's the most significant change you've experienced through your practice as a human being?
As a human being, basically, that the realization exists now, not later. In other words, I no longer demean my basic awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big change. And it works, you know. My life works in that way. You know, it's not. I'm waiting for something else to happen, or some great event or change in my life. You know, is that if I died tomorrow, I would be satisfied with this. It's not that other things won't come in. I'm not trying to fix reality or fix that. It's just, this is enough right now.
That's a gift, isn't it? To give yourself.
Well, it's a hard-won gift.
That is a gift. It's good.
Yeah, it's like a gift from what is it? Publishers Clearinghouse or whatever. You know, you got to pay for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
How much do you still suffer?
All the time. As long as people suffer, I suffer. You know, like I say, we're in it together. I can't hold myself separate from it. If I hold myself separate from it, I can't do anything about it. This one here is a stuck axle wheel. It's the same for Shakyamuni. It's the same now. You know. I'm not afraid of it, you know. I can go into suffering, You know, simply because maybe there's an opportunity for that to change. God.
Is it ever an unstuck axle wheel?
What's that?
Is it constantly, I mean, for all of us, is it constantly an unstuck axle wheel? A stuck axle wheel? Is it ever an unstuck axle wheel?
Just use another cliche again, a hunting dog's got to hunt. You know, that's what I do. That's what I do, you know. You know, at first, that Bodhi mind or that desire for enlightenment or the desire to end suffering, I felt that something was missing because I was suffering. Now I realise it's a fact. And so I might as well do something with it, you know. And I can't say how successful I am, but I'll make the attempt. It's good enough, you know. And I'll try and enjoy it, you know. That's why I want to enjoy my life. I'm not going to turn it into a tragedy, you know. And so if anything's really not working, I've got to take care of this as well. You know, it's not a one-sided thing, well, I'll take care of all these beings on the outside. No, you're saving me, thank you. It's a mutual thing, you know. If it's just a one-way thing, then, you know, I'm getting a messiah complex. You know, if I start putting a crown of thorns on and nailing myself to a cross, then, you know, just give me a bottle of wine. You know. And, you know, it's important, you know, in terms of teaching, you only need one thing. Whatever you hear, you know, go to the most important thing and just take that one thing and practice it. Don't think that talks are about collecting a whole bunch of information. The one thing that strikes you is take that one thing, work on it, embody it, and then you'll get far more out of it than memorizing a whole bunch of things that are said. And even if you forget a whole bunch of stuff, maybe later down the road, I mean, I still hear Maezumi Roshi, you know, he'll say something, oh, he said that happened. These things will come up, these teachings, when you need them, either from other voices or from the actions of the world around you. Those things will come up. So, again, it's just make sure what you do is digest whatever teachings that there are that you have. You know. And then don't let any of your criticisms of the teacher, any teacher, get in the way of you making sure that you practice that one thing. You know, even if somebody is, you know, a complete idiot, you know, I'm getting close, but be able to filter that out and then find the kernel that you can use and then practice that. Everybody can teach you something there. It doesn't matter where or how. Okay, I think we're going to run over, aren't we, at this point?
Good. Yeah.